Hi everyone, I'm Kelly and I am a solution consultant with Echolocity. And today I want to share with you one of Smartsheet's latest features called collections. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel or regularly attend our webinars, you may have seen us talk about this feature in one of our What's New with Smartsheet webinars, which we do quarterly. Or we also did a Smartsheet Engage recap, which is Smartsheet's annual conference. But in those videos, if you have seen them, I didn't have an opportunity to actually demo the functionality of the tool because it was not yet available. Now I have access to it, so I want to show you all it. So as you can see here on my screen, I'm in a CRADE log. And over here on the left-hand side, right, this is the main navigation panel, and this is the workspace panel, and that is how you get to collections. So if I click on that, it's going to open up the workspace panel. If you're not familiar, this is Smartsheet's newer user experience for navigation. Smartsheet still offers the previous experience in the browse view, but they are working to move towards this workspace panel. And so this workspace panel is where some of their latest features or where you get access to this latest feature. So the file library is one example, and then collections. So collections is a new functionality that Smartsheet's released, which allows you to have better controls over permissions for different assets. So in the legacy model, you are able to share assets at the workspace level or at the individual asset level, right? So you can either share a user, let's say I have my team member Kiefer here, I can share Kiefer the entire workspace of this Echo SCC COE workspace. Or I can say, I don't want Kiefer to have access to every single one of these items. So I have to go into each asset I want him to have access to and manually share each individual one. Now we know individual asset management can be a bit of a nightmare. If it's a one-off, there are circumstances where you need to use that, but it's not ideal for administrative management. It's time consuming. If people move, it's, having to go search and figure out what they have access to. There's a lot to it. So collections, how they describe collections at Smartsheet's annual conference this year is it's kind of like folder sharing, but better. And if you're not new to Smartsheet, you know that folder sharing has been requested for quite some time. So collections live within a workspace. However, that does not mean that the contents within a collection have to all live within that workspace. I'm going to walk you through what this means. So a collection is, you can think of it as a folder, right? It's another folder that allows you to pick and choose what assets you want to be in that folder and then share access to that folder or collection for just those items. Now, those items can be all in the same workspace. Those items can be in multiple different workspaces. Now, if the items are in multiple workspaces, you do have to select which workspace the collection lives in. So it is tied to a workspace at this point in time. So one use case, right? So if we're thinking about projects in Smartsheet, oftentimes we need to share different levels of access with different stakeholders. So I already started to set up one collection. And if you look at this collection, I titled it Leadership. And in this collection, I'm showing all of the project dashboards, right? So if I think through the lens of a stakeholder in a leadership position, they may not need to dig into the details of the project plan. They may not need to dig into the details of the CRADE log or the stakeholder list, right? They want to get that snapshot view to understand the status of the project. On the dashboard, they'll still be able to see, critical risks and issues, past due tasks that are due in the next 30 days, whatever it is that filter criteria that you have on your dashboard is, they will be able to see that. So as you can see here in this collection, it gives me the option to add more items to the collection. You can also add non-Smartsheet items to collection. So you can add SharePoint links or really just any external links and things like that. So that can also be really helpful. If you go linksy, you can put the link in and then you can put the name of that link. So I'm just going to go echolocity.com, Echolocity. And you can see it automatically adds a new row once I fill that in. So I can go ahead and add that as well. And then that gets seen here. When I click on this, this is going to tell me what the permissions is. And for a dashboard, it is just viewer. There's no kind of admin permissions for a dashboard. So I'm going to go back and I'm actually going to just create a new collection so you can see the whole process from the start. So if I hover over collections, I'm going to click the plus sign. And now I want to make a collection for project team members, right? And when I say project team members, I'm referring to, any team members that are actually supporting and executing on a project. So these team members actually need to have more access than leadership, right? They need to have access to project plans so they can update their tasks. They need to have access to CRADE logs so they can update their risks and issues. But they're a project team member, not a project manager. So they don't need to have access to things like, a stakeholder analysis or a requirements sheet. Maybe they do, right? It just depends on the specific use case. But let's just say this is just for users that really need to be, updating their tasks and being able to manage their CRADE items. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Add to Collection. And I'm going to go into, so I have these 3 projects provisioned. Right, another example, right? I wouldn't want a project team member to have access to budget tracking. Maybe that's, it's confidential for that level of user. So I'm going to do the CRADE log and project plan, CRADE log and project plan, CRADE log and project plan. That's all within the same workspace, but I can also go into different workspaces. Let me find another good one here. And I can pick additional ones, right? Perfect. So click add. And then those all get added to this collection. Now, if I click on the access piece here, when it comes to a sheet, you can be a viewer, commenter, or editor. So you can select any of those. So in this use case that I'm referring to, I do want to make sure that they have editor access. In some cases, you may only want them to have commenter. I have seen that with many clients as well, who still want the PM to manage the data, but allow the users to comment on items so that they can provide status updates, right? Perfect, easy enough. And then when you click on the 3 dots here, this is where you can then share this collection. And that's when you would go in and add the specific items that, add the specific users that you want to have access to this collection. Now, again, this is going to make sure that these users have access to the items within the collection, but nothing else within the workspace or the other workspaces. Something to be aware of for permissions, however, is because the collection lives within a workspace, any users that have access to the workspace have access to everything in the collection. And the way access works is they're going to have the highest level of permissions that is granted to them. So let's say Caroline has editor access at the workspace level, but you grant viewer access in the collection to those shared to the collection. Caroline will still have editor access in that collection. So it is going to honor like the highest hierarchy. So that's important to keep in mind. Something else or something to consider, right? So right now I have put a collection into a workspace with other assets. Something that you could potentially do is create a workspace just for your collections. So this then takes out that ability for all users in the workspace to have access to the collection or just keep it kind of better organized, like a workspace that's labeled collections and then has all your collections in there. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're starting to play around and test with how to use collections. Something else that's important to keep in mind is anyone that is an admin on the workspace is an admin for the collection, which is actually great because you have multiple users who can manage that collection. Which makes it a little bit easier, when team members turn over or team members change roles and things like that. There's not necessarily a change in ownership that needs to happen or something like that. Every admin in the every admin in the workspace will have the ability to create and manage collections. The last thing I wanted to call out is I kind of mentioned this at the beginning, but right now you can only access collections through the new workspace panel. So if I went into this workspace in the browse option, I would not see this collection. I have to get into the workspace panel to be able to go in there, make changes, updates, and things like that. So I am super excited about this new change. I hope you are too. Please leave comments with any questions or comments about how you're currently using collections and how it's changed your workflow. We would love to hear more about that. Something that I didn't include that I do want to make sure to call out: currently, collections is only available in the new user subscription model. So if you're on the legacy, you may not see access to this yet. But when you go through your renewal, you will get into the new user subscription model and get access to that. So feel free to leave us questions about that as well. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We put videos out like this, helpful tips and tricks and demos of new features, at least on a weekly basis. So we'd love for you to subscribe and enjoy more of our content. Thank you.